Okay, everybody, welcome. Welcome to today's conversation. We're going to be talking about this whole Mercury retrograde cycle that's happening in Leo, all the way from June 29th to August 25th is really when it clears its retrograde period. So you can see we have Mercury retrograde for a few weeks, and I was like, what am I going to talk about on my podcast this week? Because like there's so many things that I want to cover, and I'm just trying to be really present in the now, what's going to be most helpful for humans. And of course, I still can come up with like 20 different topics, but I figured from the conversations that I'm having with humans around me, my clients, my friends, just random, things I'm witnessing happen in the world, this Mercury retrograde is actually a perfect thing to cover, whether you're an astrology lover or not, or you're here from human design or not. It's all interplaying with the great cosmic shifts that are happening. And there is, without a doubt, so much change happening in 2025. I've spoken about it on other episodes on my YouTube channel. Of course, this podcast is new. So I have not spoken a lot about it yet on this podcast, but we had Neptune and Saturn move into Aries this year. We had the nodes switch into Pisces and Virgo in January, and we're having Uranus change this year into Gemini, which is actually going to happen within a few days on July 7th. And I am going to cover that in today's podcast. So and then Jupiter also moved into Cancer, which is a year-long transit, right? So we've got, a 14-year new transit cycle with Neptune. We've got a 7-year transit happening with Uranus, a year transit with Jupiter, a 2.5, 3-year transit with Saturn, an 18-month transit happening with the North and South node. Guys, so much change. Okay, so much change. So if you're feeling it in your life, this is why, right? The astrology and the here and the now it's like every soul who has decided to be born in this time and live under these transits, we have signed up for these challenges. We have signed up for this transformation, okay? And we have signed up to be a part of this global change that we're witnessing that's happening, okay? But we're going to break it down and bring it back into our personal lives, right? Which is the most useful way to use astrology and human design. And the biggest way we can make a change within our lives, right? Is just like trying to get outside of the big stuff happening. Of course, we want to pay attention to that at certain times, but kind of hone it in, zone it in to your personal life. And hopefully I can make this a little less complicated. I am going to throw out some dates throughout this Mercury retrograde period. I'm going to try to keep this podcast nice and short because I know everyone's attention spans are a lot shorter these days. So hopefully I can break down a very big thing into about 20 minutes. Okay. And I'll continue to do more content on my YouTube channel and of course this podcast as we move along through the energy. Okay. So first thing to uncover is that we're going through an energetic shift, okay? Like the way that we are operating in this world, in our current reality, is energetically shifting on a global scale. And for the last 400 years, we have been in what has been called the cross of planning, okay? Which is this like living inside of like this hologram, if you will, where us humans have been wired energetically to form community, to work within community, to create tribes, okay, focus more on partnerships and relationships, right? And develop things that would benefit us and other people on a collective scale, okay? And that comes with its obviously good and bad, right? There's duality in everything, polarity in everything, right? So like healthcare systems, for instance, education systems, for instance, right? Global travel, collective groups of consciousness forming religions, so forth, right? All of these things have been a part of the cross of planning, and that has served its purpose. But come 2027, we are shifting energetically as a humanity, and we're going to see this, we're going to feel this within our bodies. This is a part of the human design. Human design has been tracking this, since it came out in the 1980s, but we have been able to pinpoint the dates with human design, but this has actually been predicted through other forms of divination and religions and so forth in various other ways, okay, throughout the hundreds of years, okay? But human design has kind of been able to like narrow this down to like a year, right? Like an actual time when this energetic switch is going to happen. And so why there's so much eruption right now, why there's so much change happening is because energetically the universe knows, our souls know, it's all conspiring. We're getting ready for 2027 to hit and this global change to switch into the cross of the sleeping phoenix, right? And so the cross of the sleeping phoenix is much more geared towards the human consciousness changing and being more geared towards becoming an individual, focusing more on, your own sovereignty, your own personality, expressing your individuality, and kind of separating from the group, right? So we're going to see systems collapse. So we have already been seeing it collapsing. It's been a gradual thing. We're going to see more and more systems collapse where it once required like a global community or like some sort of cohesive getting together, right? Uniformity of so and so forth, and maybe lack of individual perspective or lack of individuality within some type of essence. We're going to see those types of structures break down, come down, and we're going to move and lean towards more of our own individual survival, essentially, right? And so more independence in our lives. And it's going to be uncomfortable for many of us. We use the tools of astrology and human design so that we can prep ourselves and we can prime ourselves for these changes and these shifts. And this is why this Mercury retrograde is so important to me, because this is such a lubricating moment, like a few weeks, if you're really paying attention to understand how you're going to be able to transition with all of these bigger planetary alignments that are happening for us and these major shifts and changes to come, okay? And you might be able to feel it. And it's 333 while I'm communicating this right now, so this is confirmation. But you might be able to feel these changes happening within you, right? You might be able to feel, and 333, by the way, is an alignment of the mind, body, and spirit, and it's also a communication number. So I'm communicating through all of this to you right now, right? I have plans like of what I want to cover, but I'm kind of just letting my knowledge flow through me. So this Mercury retrograde period is a lubricating point. Okay. It's a lubrication point. And what I mean by that is it's getting your soul aware. It's getting your soul wet. This is like a Mercury retrograde in fire, by the way. There is water in the sky right now, but we're in Cancer season. Jupiter's in Cancer, but this is getting your soul wet to understand, okay, where do I stand as an individual? And when it comes to my own like authentic self-expression, and how am I going to fit in to the rest of community and society moving forward, okay? And I'm really going to encourage people understand that feeling like an individual and being really strong on who you are and what your authenticity means to you is going to be the guiding light into the shifts that we're moving forward towards, okay? It's no longer about copying others. It's not that it ever should have been really anyway, okay? But like that does exist there, especially when we're leaving the cross of planning where there's a lot of conformity, right? And it was like, well, everyone should be equal and the same, and we should have the same thing and everything, da 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 da. That's not going to be the case anymore. It's just not. So knowing who you stand as an individual allows you to feel secure within a group of a whole bunch of conscious humans, right? A whole bunch of other people. And allowing yourself to be so in alignment with who you are as an individual gives you a confidence to operate in the world, gives you a confidence to understand your purpose, like how you can show up in relationships, how you can show up in groups with other people. And more specifically, what will be important is learning how to cooperate with other people who are also their own individual self and also confident in being themselves, and not letting that trigger you because they're different than you and you're different than them. Okay. And this is the breakdown of what I think this Mercury retrograde is really gonna bring to the surface for people. Okay. We are having oppositions to Pluto. We are having Uranus transit into Gemini in this. We've got a Venus conjunct Uranus in the middle of these next couple of weeks. Okay. This is like power struggles, power dynamics, unconscious fears coming to the rise, a sense of defensiveness at times, and then a whole lot of inner child dialogue essentially coming to the surface and upsetting people, right? Hold on one second. My dog will not stop crying. Okay, sorry about that. I had to put my sweet puppy outside because he was giving me a power control dynamic, essentially. So, okay, so let's break it down a little bit for you, okay? So on June 29th, I want you to, as an individual listening to this, or if you're watching, okay, think about the themes that are coming up for you around June 29th, because these are essentially going to begin the themes that you're dealing with and that are important for your soul to pay attention to right now during this retrograde period. And retrogrades are all about introspection for yourself. Okay. It's not a time to, and these are generic things for every retrograde period, no matter what sign we're in. Okay. These can be true, right? It's really not a time to start a new project, put something out there that you can't fix and you can't redo. Okay. So if you must start a new project, if you must put something out there and you can't fix it, right, I would hold off until this whole Mercury retrograde period is over with. Okay. This is a time where miscommunication happens, right? So somebody reads your text in the wrong tone, right? They take your tone of voice like for something that it wasn't, or you send the text to the wrong person and like, whoops, like I ruined the surprise birthday party kind of thing, or you mess up on an email. This is a time when you can hear back from ghosts from your past, right? People from your past come up, and there's often a purpose. There's a purpose for some of these people who are coming back, because there has to be a closure within the dynamic. There's something that's not settled. Okay. Maybe there's a conversation that your soul knows still needs to be had. Like the both of your souls are working together. Hey, this is unfinished business. And this is all in alignment because we don't want to continue to create all these new cycles in our life and start new projects and go in new directions if we have all of these old loose ends energetically in our sphere, okay, that haven't been closed out, haven't been tied up, and then they can come back to haunt you again at another point in life, right? So I always look at Mercury retrogrades as like such a good time to reset, rewire, redo. Okay. Anything with the word re in it, it's like, don't fear these things and don't feel like, oh my God, it's Mercury retrograde again, and get frustrated with the fact of having to do things twice or having to, like I just had to go back to the bank today. I sent a wire transfer to Thailand yesterday for the villa that I'm building out there. And some other stuff had come out of my bank account that I didn't plan for. So the wire transfer didn't go through. So I had to go back to the bank today with more money to go send it through. Okay. There's a reason that these things happen. And sometimes like we don't fully understand until later on either. Okay. But just don't get frustrated. Just understand that Mercury is here working for you so that you can work out the kinks in life and you can tie things up and there's unfinished business going on. Okay. It's also a time to go really introspective with your thoughts. Okay. Mercury rules over the left side of our brain. Okay. So this is our thinking patterns. This is our thoughts. Okay. This is our ideas, like the way that we communicate. And so it's really important that we have control. I don't want to say control is such a hard word to use sometimes in these spiritual podcasts, but we learn to work with our mind, not let our mind work us. Okay. Because everything that we create, everything that we manifest in life, everything that becomes a physical reality around us starts with our thought consciousness. Okay. We think it and then we believe it and then we act upon what we believe. Okay. So learning to work with our minds can be one of the most powerful ways that we can create manifestation in our life. We can speed up the process of the good things and the good energy in our life. Okay. And we can, create more harmony and balance when it comes to communication and when it comes to our relationships and just anything else you could want to use these spiritual tools for, right? To make your life more seamless, to make your life full, more of like joy and more of light energy coming in. Okay. So all of these regular Mercury things stand true. You can definitely have trouble with your car, again, like bills being paid, maybe appliance issues and so forth. But because this retrograde is in Leo, this is going to have to do with a lot of your confidence as a human, okay, and your authentic self-expression, okay, because it's in the sign of Leo, and this is one of the domains that Leo governs over. It deals with how we are operating from a self-actualized person, right? How self-actualized are you? How in tune are you with your own authentic self-expression? And especially because Mercury's here, thoughts, right? So this is a time to do like an ego detox. Okay. And these things will come up because we've got these oppositions to Pluto going on. Okay. So, let's see, on June 29th, which I'm recording this on July 1st. So a couple of days ago, if you can think back, there could have been some power struggles between you and another person or another situation. Okay. And you want to really think about that. Like, what was I feeling insecure about? What was I fearing? Right? What was I feeling challenged by? Right? What was I feeling uncertain about? Or maybe what kind of painful situation was triggering me when it came to me wanting to express myself and me wanting to communicate how I feel and my emotions and what I think, right? And my ideas and the actions you want to take, right? You could have had this opposition effect, right? And usually oppositions come through another person, but not necessarily. It could have been a situation, whatever. Everyone's chart's different. Okay. But where could have there been a situation, an interplay where you lost a sense of security within yourself? Okay. This is a part of this cycle moving forward. Okay. And we're going to have two more passes of Mercury opposite Pluto. Okay. Because it's going to go backwards in the sky. Well, it doesn't technically go backwards. It looks like it's going backwards. That's why we say it goes backwards. Just to, be clear on like the actual workings of how Mercury never, no planets ever move backwards. End of the story there. Right. So, this is a time now to understand, okay, that person is in their element. They're communicating from their heart space. We're allowing that dialogue to happen. And the reason why these hard situations come up with the Mercury opposite Pluto is it's because anything that we attach to for too long that gives us a sense of security, Pluto will come in. This is Pluto's job. Pluto will come in and remove that security for you because it is a false sense of security. And it brings you into a deeper knowing that you are God and goddess at all times, that you never need to put your authenticity or your value or how you love yourself or how you feel loved outside of yourself, because it's reminding you that you are goddess and God at all times. and that you can reclaim your power and you can come back into your power no matter the situation, no matter the human being coming at you, projecting at you, opposing your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, what have you. Okay. No matter what, this opposition to Pluto is to give you this real ego detox. Okay. And allow you to change the inner narrative within yourself and to bring that power back into yourself. Okay. And this whole Mercury in Leo period is really about creating the leader within yourself and having this leadership inner dialogue within yourself, which is going to prime you for the rest of the transits that we're going to have later in the year, moving into 2027 and so forth. This does not mean if you miss out and you jack up this Mercury retrograde and you come out of it and you're like, you know what, Mac, I feel like I didn't learn anything. It doesn't mean that you won't learn the lessons in future transits, because there's always opportunity. And astrology is just a repeat of patterns and behaviors that we can read in the sky, and you can just elevate more and more and more every time you kind of like achieve a goal, like a personal goal with you and your soul. Okay. It doesn't mean that like if you miss the boat in this one, like you're not gonna, you're screwed in 2027, or you're screwed when Uranus moves into Gemini next week. It doesn't mean that at all. It's just like an opportunity now. And I guarantee you, if you're here listening, like you're already doing the work. Like you're already 20 steps ahead of most human beings who are dealing with this right now. And you can see it. You can see it because a lot of people right now are not going to claim responsibility for the chaos that is happening in their lives, right? They're going to project, they're going to say that was your fault. You made me feel this way. My ego is hurt. It's going to be more of like an aggressive projection from other people rather than a reevaluation of like, okay, this triggered something that I feel from like my early childhood when I felt unworthy, or I felt like I wasn't seen, or I felt like my voice wasn't heard, or I felt like when I expressed my emotions, nobody heard me, nobody understood me, right? It's an opportunity to pull back, okay, and go within, right? So a lot of people under this Mercury retrograde period with these oppositions to Pluto can start to rehash issues from the past that maybe already were closed out because of pride, right? Because of pride. Like, those times when like you get in an argument with somebody and somebody brings up that thing that you did 6 months ago, and you're like, we healed this. Like we that was so long ago. Why are we bringing this up now, right? That is an example of like Mercury retrograde in Leo happening in its shadow form, is like an argument being brought up because of pride, okay? Because it's hurting someone's ego and it's because of their pride. That's not a way to bring up things that need to be closed out, right? We're learning to integrate here. We're learning to integrate our self-expression, somebody else's self-expression, and allowing the space for both parties to communicate effectively, okay, while hearing the other person, which can be a very hard thing in an opposition to do, is to listen and hear the other person while also standing in your own truth and recognizing that person's truth too. If your truths are not the same, right? Agree to disagree, respect one another, obviously, agree to disagree, but don't allow other people to dictate or manipulate or condition how you feel anymore, right? This is a time for you to stand into your own authenticity and reclaim your own confidence within yourself, right? So a lot of these oppositions to Pluto over this time, this Mercury retrograde period, can also bring up a lot of memories, because we're going back, right? We're rehashing with retrograde. We're like thinking back in the past. We're hearing back from the past. We can hear from people, or we can think or rethink of things where we felt like our confidence was stripped away, right? We feel like our vitality was stripped from us. So it's these like mental memories that can become quite painful and then will trigger the emotional experience, okay? But we're given the opportunity right now to rewrite the narrative so we can step into our power. Okay. And this is over the course of a few weeks. So I want to remind you, okay, June 29th, Mercury stepped into its shadow period. It won't go retrograde until July 18th. Okay. At 15 degrees Leo. So anybody who has Leo, any of the fixed signs, Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, around 15 degrees, I would give you a wide orb, 10 degrees on either side. You know, you're going to be hit with this, or even greater than some other people, you know. All the signs will be affected by it, right? But specifically the fixed signs, or if you have any of your angles around 15 degrees of this fixed signs, you know, you'll be feeling this a lot more. Okay. So, I'm looking at my notes here. So, okay, let's like move forward to a couple of the other shifts that are going to happen before I wrap this up and I can make this, you know, a nice short podcast for everybody. So we will be getting a trine to Mercury and Leo from that Saturn and Neptune, right? Which is going to allow you, even with the rehashing and the power dynamics and the power struggles at play here, it's going to allow you to get a sense of clarity and stability and grounding from the Aries sector of your chart, from the Aries sector. And really what the Saturn and the Neptune and Aries is trying to help you establish with this retrograde period is having autonomy over your voice, right? And giving you a sense of agency to have that Aries quality that we all have in our chart. We all have Aries somewhere, and a Mars and in a first house essentially too, where you can have this power behind you. Okay, this power, like, no, I'm going to stand up for myself, right? And again, we don't want to lead from ego defensiveness. We just want to lead from confidence, right? A confidence, of a willpower of knowing, right? And especially this Neptune is going to reveal a lot of clarity around the truth of where you've been conditioned from other people to believe certain things about yourself. And now it's up to you to connect to the truth. Okay, because Neptune essentially wants to bring you to the truth here. And then Saturn is here to build that new foundation for you, Saturn and Aries, that new structure of boundaries for yourself and also confidence moving forward, right? Moving forward, especially when Mercury goes direct on August 11th, right? So Mercury is going to move direct on August 11th at 4 degrees of Leo. It will oppose Pluto again. You'll have the third time pass of Mercury opposite Pluto, but then you begin to wrap up the themes, hopefully moving forward with a new sense of self-confidence and personal self-expression and being able to stand strong in your power, moving forward when it comes to your dynamics with other people. Okay. So what I wanted to put actually on the backdrop, because there is so much I could break down around this transit, I will leave it to my personal readings. Like if this is resonating with you and like you want me to get really detailed and scrubbed in with you personally, like book an astrology reading with me like immediately, and we can dig into this. If this is resonating and you want to dig in the middle of this transit now and get the most out of it, like we can work together. We can scrub into your chart and exactly pinpoint, you know, what this is going to focus in on for you, the details and nitty gritty. Okay. But on a larger scale for everybody, I want to bring into the fact that during this retrograde period, we start the cycle of Uranus moving into Gemini, and this is a big change, okay? Uranus is a planet that definitely brings sudden change into our lives, and when it transits a new sign in the sky, we're going to feel the shifts, all of us, okay? We're going to feel the shifts because it's entering new territory. It's going into a new doorway in our chart, the Gemini side of our house. And it's also going to be now talking to Mercury instead of Venus like it was for the last 7 years. Since 2017, Uranus was in Taurus. It was talking to Venus the whole time. And this had to do with our agriculture. It had to do with our food. It had to do with money and resources. We could see a lot of shifts and changes around the food industry. because Uranus represents rebellion, you know, we witnessed the farmers revolting, literally having petitions and coming together and revolting for certain various issues all over the world. You know, we saw some of the bridges, ships running into bridges and collapsing that transported our food. I mean, like the cryptocurrency market thing just was exploding in here, there, whatever. Like we saw a lot of changes when it came to our food, agriculture, and money and resources. And the list goes on, right? So when Uranus moves into Gemini, now this is going to be a planet that literally represents breakthroughs, sudden changes, right? And ultimately wants to bring liberation in the area that is transiting. It's going to deal with our communication because Gemini is a archetype that rules over communication. So language, social media, our phones, email, texting, the way that our actual minds operate will be accelerated. We'll have breakthroughs, we'll have shifts, we'll have changes, we'll see rebellion. All of us will have to adjust. And because it's in Gemini, it will be more scattered. So people's nervous systems are going to change. Like your nervous system can very much, especially for the first couple of years while you're experiencing Uranus and Gemini, you can feel overstimulated. You can feel mentally overstimulated. You can get burnout. We need to be very careful with all of the information that we're taking in, who we're listening to as well. And one of the biggest things I've been telling my clients and people when I talk about Uranus and Gemini is that you need to learn how to cut out the noise. And what I mean by that is, does this vibrate with me or does it not? Does this perspective, does this opinion, does this person communicating, does this spiritual teacher, does this health coach, whatever have you, whatever verbs you are hearing, like whatever verbs, whatever words you are hearing through another person, you need to make sure that it feels authentic to you and that it aligns to you and that you're cutting out the noise when it doesn't, okay? Because there's going to be a lot more noise than we're already witnessing now, okay? There will be a revolution when it comes to transportation. The way that we travel, especially with short distances, like that's going to go through massive changes. Okay, we're just going to see a shocking and sudden and pretty much wild ride with Uranus and Gemini, and especially because it's an air sign, it happens even quicker. Okay, it happens even quicker because it's an air sign, right? And air moves just so fast and so swift. It's going to trine Pluto. It's going to bring a lot of revolution and a lot of change. And this is not to fear. Okay, if this, you know, this you're like, oh my God, I can't handle any more change, Makayla, this is not to fear. Why I'm talking about this right now is this is happening in the middle of this Mercury retrograde period when this full Mercury retrograde is about really becoming secure with your authentic self and the way that you mentally operate in your thoughts and your opinions and ideas. They are your truth. That doesn't mean that somebody else's truth is your truth. It doesn't mean that your truth is somebody else's truth. Okay. We're just tapping into how we feel on a soul aligned level. And that's why we use the tools of astrology and human design to really connect to what feels authentic to us and and separate that to what has been conditioned. Okay. What we've been told we should be. You know, what doctor told you what medication you needed because you're XYZ, and maybe that doesn't align with you. Maybe you're like, no, I just don't feel right, but maybe I'll listen because they're a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Obviously, this is awful advice to say on a new podcast, but like, I'm not giving out medical advice, but I am saying if it doesn't resonate with you on an inner level and you feel it in your body and you feel it in your gut and you feel it in your soul and it's making you feel down and it's bringing you fear and it's crushing you and it's making you depressed, it's making you depleted and it's taking the light from your vitality, it is not your truth. Right. And that's why Mercury retrograde is here now in Leo, to bring you the vitality, to bring you the sunshine, to bring you the creative self-expression, to bring you the joy, to bring you the play, to bring you the confidence in order for you to express yourself, to open yourself up, to free yourself, essentially, right? Free your mind of what everybody else said your truth was, and to really reclaim your own power and your own self-confidence and step into yourself, because you are perfectly wired the way you are, and we need you. We need your energy in the world, right? We need you to stand up and be an individual in a sea of a bunch of people, right? And shine your light and bring your gifts to the world, okay? So I'm going to wrap up this video with that. I think that that was a lot of information. I really hope this helped. Of course, please make sure that you hit like and subscribe. If you are on YouTube, share this, leave a comment if you're listening on the podcast. And everybody, I'm sending you so much love. You're going to make it through this Mercury retrograde. I promise you. Okay, be resilient, be strong. You are. And we'll be back again soon. Okay, take care.